Well, hello there.
Candy.
Nice to see you.
How you?
I didn't recognize you back there. But now
I
that,
wasn't wearing a coat and tie.
well, and it's true, and my glasses aren't on. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Hello, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces here today. My name is Candy Ramos. I'm the Media and Communications Program Manager for Commissioner Support, and we oversee our CAB, our Citizen Advisory Boards. So you will see some other familiar faces in the room tonight. We do have some of our team members here, including Alexandra Wilson, who runs a number of our CABs. Sally Johnston is in the back somewhere. She runs some of our cabs. And then Casey McDonald is our newest member of the team, and he is also assisting with cabs. So everyone is here, as well as Nancy Lewinhagen, who's our Director of Communications, and we report up to her. So we're looking forward to a really fruitful session today. We're going to be receiving community feedback on the proposed changes to the language in the Washoe County Code pertaining to cabs. So there is a need to update our cabs. They are very old. So the last time I think they were updated was like 2013. So they're quite old. So today we're taking the opportunity to receive input from you as we move forward in updating that language. So we are going to be very respectful of everyone's time tonight. We will make our comments very brief, just giving you an overview of what we're doing, and then we'll invite folks up here. We're going to be taking in-person comments first, followed by those individuals who are online. So we do have some hard copies of the proposed ordinance changes in the back of the room if you do not have them. They are also available online. And if for any reason you know someone who's not able to be here tonight, I do know one individual is sick, they can still provide written input. So we can accept those. There's hard copies in the back of the room. You can fill those out tonight and hand them in to Sally or myself. You can send us an email to cab@washoecounty.gov. And then there are going to be several other opportunities to provide comment when the first ordinance change is read and the second ordinance change is read. So there's a lot of opportunities for providing public input. So it's not just tonight. And we're also going to recognize our district attorney, Jen Gustafson. She's here tonight, and she's been working really hard on updating the code amendments. So she is going to be going over those tonight. And that's what we're doing, is we're seeking feedback specifically on the topics that are listed within the CAB ordinance today. So just specific to that, please. So just to give you an idea, next slide, please, Casey. Good. So after we're done making our comments here, we are hopeful to keep this to 1 hour, tonight's input session. Again, there's lots of opportunities. And then we will also, let's see, this has been posted online. Oh, so we're looking to keep our topic, our input tonight, based specifically on the code amendment proposed changes. So just those, we hope. There's no time limit. It's not a 3-minute public comment like you normally see at a lot of open meeting. So it's just, speak to the input. We're going to have the proposed code amendments up on the screen so you can see them as you're making your comments. That you do have one opportunity to come up and make that verbal comment and input. But we do ask that you keep your comments focused on the topics that are outlined within the draft ordinance changes tonight. Let's see. Anything I'm forgetting? I think that's it. Oh, yes. Oh, hello, Commissioner. Hello, Commissioner. Nice to see you. I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you. Thank you for being here. Is there anyone else I want to see? Okay, no other electeds. Thank you, guys. Okay, I'm going to invite Jen Gustafson up to share the overview of the proposed code changes, and then we'll get into public input.
Good evening, everyone. All right, good. So my name's Jen Gustafson. I'm one of the deputy district. Can you not hear me? Okay. Can you hear me better? Yes? Okay, great. So my name is Jen Gustafson. I'm one of the deputy district attorneys that works for the county, and I'm kind of helping out with this project, particularly going through the procedure of this project. So kind of giving you a little background to get started with. This is one of the initial steps in the process to update the county's documents related to cabs. The document, as Candy mentioned, that we're focusing on today is the Washoe County Code, and hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at the draft ordinance. I know there's copies in the back of the room. The code is really the big picture. The code is the framework for the cabs. It's the document that authorizes the Board of County Commissioners to create the cab program in the first place. We do have other documents related to the cabs, which we're not going to be specifically addressing today. We do have documents that are called resolutions, which actually create the individual cabs. And we also have a document called the cab bylaws. And that document prescribes like specific procedures related to the meetings, the running of the meetings themselves. So I know that can get a little confusing because we have a few different documents related to cabs. But I do want to assure everyone that before any of these documents are changed, there's going to be opportunities for public feedback, certainly. So with that said, that's just kind of an intro. I'm going to be brief. I'm just going to go through and give you kind of a summary of the proposed ordinance that's in front of you. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Ramos to open it up for public input. So the first topic that's on that third bullet point on your screen is the possibility of renaming the Citizens Advisory Board, and it is Citizens with an S currently, to an alternative option. And that's really the purpose behind that, is to better align the purpose of those boards with the name of the boards, and also to kind of create a separation between the old provisions in code and the new provisions of code via a name change. So at this point, there's a few different, possibilities that are being thrown around for the potential name changes. One is Community Advisory Board. Community really does align with how the cities do their boards. Those are neighborhood advisory boards. I'm sure you're familiar with that. The second option up there is Constituent Advisory Board. So the word constituent really just means a citizen entitled to elect a representative to public office. So all of these boards are truly constituent advisory boards because they are advising a person that's in public office, the commissioner, or the board that's comprised of elected officials, so the Board of County Commissioners. And then the other option up there is Citizen without the S, Citizen Advisory Board, and that's basically what we refer to these boards now. And then there's another bullet point, other suggestions. If any of you have a suggestion for what these boards should be named, we certainly would like to hear that tonight. The next proposal is to update the general purpose section. And really the meat of this is to specify that the advice that these boards are giving is on matters within Washoe County's governmental jurisdiction. So that's really the part here we wanted to clarify, because we want to make sure that these boards are giving advice on things that the county actually has some power to do something about. And then the third bullet point up there is to require the geographical boundaries of the cabs to fall within a single commissioner district rather than share boundaries between districts, as some of the cabs currently do. Next slide. All right, and then next proposal there is to retain applications for 1 year as opposed to 3.5 years. To update provisions related to the selection of cab officers. And specifically, that's to have the cab members elect their own officers and remove a current code provision which allows the county commissioners to overrule those decisions. The next proposal is to align the terms for alternate members with the terms for the regular cab members, just to clean that up, and to allow the cab members to serve on either the Washoe County Planning Commission or the Board of Adjustment. And then the next proposal is to ensure that there's provisions related to the removal of cab members. There's a lot of Nevada open meeting law components in those sections of code. And so we wanted to clean that up to ensure that it complies with current Nevada open meeting law and is not duplicative of state law. And then the final bullet point on there is just to update the provisions related to the bylaws to make sure that the procedures are uniform between the cabs and that we don't have, different cabs subject to different rules, and it's equal between the cabs. So really, that's kind of a summary of the proposed changes. I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Ramos and start the input session. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, DA Gustafson. So we are going to open up, I'm sorry, next slide, please, Casey. Oh, wait, you have it there. So we're going to keep this slide up on the screen so that as you make public comment, you can keep this front and center so you see what we're looking to receive input about. We invite you to come up. We're going to be having people who are in chambers tonight make comment first, followed by anyone who's listening in online. If you do want to make comment online, it will be done after those who are in person, and you can raise your virtual hand and Casey will unmute you. And then please just make your comments, as succinct as possible as it pertains to what we're looking at tonight. And we'll open this up then. And then if you have not, before I forget, I want to make sure before you leave tonight, if you haven't already, please sign in on the sheet. We are going to be using that when we provide the input to the Board of County Commissioners, who all was here and who provided the public comment. If you can please state your name when you come up here, that would be great. So who's first? Yes, Joni, I believe. Come on up.
Seems weird to be talking in this direction. Good evening, I'm Joni Hammond. Thank you for having this collaboration, I guess, meeting. One, I think cabs are some of the most valuable county meetings that we have. And certainly I belong to the Spanish Springs one, and the last few months, we've actually had substantive topics there. So I think that's really been helpful. I mean, I think it's good to clarify the districts to make sure, because my understanding is Spanish Springs, they have some little outlying areas to make sure the districts are all within the district. And I like the word collaborative because it should be a collaborative process with the commission there that comes to our CAB meeting. Perhaps there should be some words such as substance in the bylaws so that we're just not all going there to bitch about something, because sometimes it seems like it turns into that. And I think there's so much going on that I think it's important to have a real topic at a meeting and maybe a couple topics. I'd like to keep the applications to 1 year. I think that's fine. Frankly, I don't know why the county keeps our applications at all. It seems like each time we apply, we could do that independently. But I think it's a good idea to go from 3, I think it was 3 years to 1 year. And then my last is the dissolution. I hope these meetings aren't so we can dissolve the cabs, because again, how I started was I think they're pretty important.
That's not an accident. You ever get him, Bruce? Get him. Shine. Get him, Bruce. Well, first of all, thank you for having this meeting here. I can't even begin to express how I feel about the value of hearing the citizenry. I mean, after all, who pays the taxes here? We, the people. First of all, I don't believe that name needs to be changed. Constituent, well, that kind of alludes to the fact that we're only talking about the people that vote rather than the entire community. And I don't like the word community either, because that addresses a very broad area. It's not specific enough. Citizens, we the people. I suppose you could call it Taxpayer Advisory Board, but I don't think that's going to fly. I don't believe a name change is necessary. I think it's fine just the way it is. And not citizen singular either. The citizens, plural, are the ones that have a stake in what goes on within that community as the commissioner's constituents. I have the idea of the county commissioners assigning the officers. I've always had a problem with that. I don't think it's not good optics at the very minimum. But at its worst, it can be abused. I believe that the individual boards should be electing their own officers in the hopes that they get some fresh blood in there once in a while, which with that fresh blood, I appreciate the fact that there is training available for members of the Citizens Advisory Boards. I know that knowing how to run a meeting is a skill that is essential to making these cabs effective and being able to provide an opportunity for everybody's voice to be heard in an organized manner, not chaos. So striking that provision where county commissioners can appoint officers, that's a good thing. I do have a problem with the bylaw portion of this proposal. Bylaws are absolutely critical to how the cabs function. If those bylaws are not amendable, if there's not some flexibility in there, that's problematic, extremely problematic. Imagine, if you will, our federal Constitution not being amendable. There would be no Bill of Rights. Of course, there's some other stuff that wouldn't have happened, like, oh, I don't know, the 18th Amendment, prohibition. Point is, your governing documents have to be subject to change. They can't be, this is how it is, and we will not deviate from that. It has to be amendable. Really does. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Penny Brock from the South Valley's CAB. I'm a little confused by this meeting. In December, we got we must have an urgent meeting of the CABs and citizens 6 days before Christmas. It was urgent. So we came together and we gave input. And we've waited and waited and waited for the report. Finally, a couple weeks ago, I got a copy of the report. It's available. So all you have to do is email Candy and the team, and you should be able to get a copy. So we're wondering what's happening to our input list. The ordinance change and these other changes are not on our input list. So that's why I'm confused how this ordinance, all these changes have come about. We want the inputs. We want to make our cabs better and more effective. We're hearing it from our citizens. They have a right to be heard. Every cab is different. Each cab deals with different issues than other cabs. So we need to stay our individual cabs. And the ones that are meeting combined, I think that is wrong. So that was one good suggestion on this PowerPoint presentation. The other thing on March, 18th, this was on the agenda, item number 11, and Attorney Gustafson brought forward her amendment changes, one of which was the name change. Well, a few of us showed up at that meeting and we definitely made known we did not like the name change. At that time, it was Constituent Advisory Board. So all of us were in agreement. We did not want the name to change. So what came out of that meeting on March 18th was that the Board of County Commissioners voted unanimously to formally initiate code amendments to update provisions to the Citizen Advisory Board. It was reported by one of the social media sites. This is Reno. The headline was Washoe County to revamp citizen advisory boards. Well, I was at that meeting and I never heard that. And I know that Jeannie Herman and Mike Clark would not be in favor of that. So please note that Washoe County, how did it come about that Washoe County is going to revamp our advisory boards, our citizen advisory boards? So there were other interesting things at that March 18th meeting. We were told by Attorney Gustafson that these changes that are being proposed here have to have 3 hearings, and yes, that is NRS. The first meeting was March 18th. There's going to be another one in May. So everybody better turn out again at a county commission meeting, whenever that might be, meeting number 2. And then meeting number 3 is to happen at the end of May or June. So it's important for everybody to turn out again. But on behalf of my cab, I know what our citizens and our board wants is, when do we get to have the input that we brought forward put into reality? Remember, they told us when they called us to that 6 days before Christmas urgent meeting, we have to get this done because we have to implement this soon, real soon, early in the new year. Well, now we're going into May. Where's our input? Thank you very much.
Short meeting.
Good evening, everybody. For the record, my name is Mark Newman. I serve on the Sun Valley Citizens Advisory Board. I was appointed by Commissioner Jung, served 6 months. Commissioner Garcia took over, removed me and made me an alternate, and placed Heidi as a board member and made me an alternate. I didn't even get to serve a full year before I was taken off the board. So I don't know how that's going to work with the county commissioners to select cab officers. Does that mean if when they get a new commissioner comes in, they can remove everybody off the cab and just put whoever they want? Or is it going to be up to the citizens of Washoe County and the sections? Commissioner DA Gustafson said there's multiple cabs throughout the community that have multiple commissioners. I only know of one. That's 3 and 5, which is Sun Valley. Commissioner Herman and Commissioner Garcia are the representatives. I'm in District 3. Jeannie's in District 5. My split off was my backyard. I used to be in 5, now I'm in 3 because of the remapping. So are you going to make all of Sun Valley one district now? Or are we still going to have 2 different? That's a question for you. Renaming the Citizens Advisory Board. If it is a S and you want to change it to a C, change it to a C instead of an S, but leave it Citizens Advisory Board. At one time, all of us that have been to cab meetings and all of us that attend Washington are all the meetings. And most of you have seen me at one of your cab meetings over the last few years. Our cabs used to have a sting. We used to have a vote. Now it's kind of like, instead of changing it to Citizens Advisory Board, you might as well just try to change it to Citizens Bitch Session, because that's everybody. We don't have a tongue anymore. We don't advise the county commissioners. Jeannie comes and listens to what the people say, so does Commissioner Garcia. But we don't have a sting anymore. We used to be able to have a vote. I serve on the Open Space Regional Parks Commissioner as well. We have the commissioners listen to us. The Washoe County Senior Citizens Advisory Board, I sit on that board. The commissioners listen to us. They don't listen to the citizens advisory boards anymore because we don't have a vote. We don't count. If you're gonna change anything, you should change that back. And somebody said it hadn't been changed since 2013. Well, prior to COVID, we had a sting. We had a vote. We used to vote on things that were happening in our community. After COVID, it was gone. Now we don't vote on anything except for the minutes. So that should change. If you're gonna do it. But if we're gonna be an advisory board, we should actually be advising. Our county commissioners should listen. And then there are a few that actually do listen to the public. Some of them, it doesn't matter. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Pat Davison. I'm, is that better? Okay, my name's Pat Davison. I live in the North Valleys. Just had a couple of things for Jennifer that were not part of the points that you brought up here tonight. Have a couple of grammar questions for you, so I'll send you some written comments so you've got this as a document to use. Cross-reference the rules of procedure, which the Board of County Commissioners just approved. Things like term limits, written resignation letters are included in the rules of procedure, and maybe just something to cross-reference so the members of the CABs know that they're also subject to things that might be in another document. The code of conduct is another document as well. According to the rules of procedure, the CABs are subject to that. Code of conduct is prepared by the HR department. So just something that is more in the interest of transparency and information sharing, that CAB members know that they're subject to these other guidelines. Define just cause for the CAB chair determination for automatic vacancy. And just in the interest of transparency and to make it explicit, medical emergency, natural catastrophe, family emergency, having that clearly stated as potential definitions of just cause. And then the 14-day letter for removal, that's being proposed to be stricken. I would suggest that it stay in there just to make it abundantly clear to the person who's being potentially removed that they get that certified letter in the mail. I will be putting together written comments for you. Wanted to thank you and County Manager Brown for doing this workshop, and very grateful for our Commissioner Jeannie Herman to be here tonight. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heidi Soper. I'm Vice Chair of the Sun Valley CAB. And now that I have more than 3 minutes to talk, I don't have more than 3 minutes to say. I agree with everything that everybody has said. We need to stay an advisory board, a citizens advisory board. And if we're going to advise, we need a topic to discuss to advise. Otherwise, change our name to Citizens Information Board. The CABs also are having a hard time coming up with topics to discuss. And a lot of times, something will be discussed in one CAB that also refers to us in Sun Valley. And we can't have it discussed because it was already discussed in another CAB. So we need to change that where anything that pertains to Sun Valley or your CAB and Washoe County as a whole can be discussed. If we change our area from Commissioner Herman and Commissioner Garcia to just one commissioner, we lose a monster area and a lot of people that live in District 5 and come to our CAB. So we need to leave that with both commissioners. And both commissioners help us, and we need both of them. And thank you again, Commissioner Herman, for being here. We need developments in the areas back on the CABs. We need to be able to talk about them. We need to keep our cab members off the Planning Commission Board and the Adjustment Board because that creates conflict. And a good example of that is a Chocolate Drive, wonderful apartments in Sun Valley. At the time that the developers came to our meeting and got their little feelings hurt because we were upset, we didn't have a cab member on the planners or the adjustment boards. We do now. And so that would be a big conflict of interest had that happened at the same time. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Naylor. I have here a document. I don't know how many of you found it online. It was kind of obscure. But what it is allegedly is an ordinance amending Washoe County Code by revising provisions relating to the Citizens Advisory Boards. It's a draft. And I'm thinking that you must have put this draft together, the DA, right? Anyway, I was going through this thing and there's a bunch of stuff in here that's pretty upsetting. Of course, you say that the purpose of the CAB is to advise and collaborate with the county commissioners and the board of county commissioners. What I found in the past when the CABs really had some teeth was the planning commission was extremely interested in the CAB's opinion on a project. And that was verbally mentioned many times. That should still be the case. Board of Adjustment, same thing. You're going in here, you're saying that CAB members can be on those two boards or commissions, but you might have a conflict. I think that the CAB comments should absolutely go to the Planning Commission, the Board of Adjustments, as well as the county commissioners. And I believe that the CAB comments should be included mandatorily as a part of the staff report for any action that goes to those boards. Okay. Mentions unique bylaws. You've crossed off the entire paragraph that allows a CAB to have unique bylaws in this document. So the only bylaws we have now are the ones that are created by the county commissioners. Don't know why you did that. Seems to me there are some things that are unique about CABs. One might be the frequency of the meetings. Some CABs don't have good attendance. Maybe they want to meet every other month or every third month. Some CABs have good attendance and prefer to meet or want to meet every month. Seems like the CABs themselves should have some flexibility in a unique bylaw. I don't know why you crossed it out, but you did. So now only the commissioners, it's kind of a missing piece. We really don't know what are in those bylaws. I called some CAB members to ask them. Nobody seemed to know. It would really be nice. I mean, does it control the agenda? Does it control the frequency of the meeting? Does it control the schedule of the meeting? Things that are really, really critical to the citizens. Okay, under section 6 in here, conduct of the meetings of the CABs, you crossed out the whole section that said you had to have minutes. What do? Do we get up and talk at a CAB and it goes into the vapor? Or is this a part? It could conceivably be a part of the open meeting law. But I think it's very important, obviously, we have written minutes that we can present, that we can reference. People aren't going to go online and they're not going to go look at a video of the meeting, commissioners and other busy people who serve on these commissions. They're not going to go look at a video. You've got to have something specific you can show them and where you can take the section out that's pertinent to the item being discussed. Okay. You want to change the name. You know, I've been to a few meetings. It was virtually unanimous that the name not be changed. And I notice in this draft, the only change you made is you took it from citizens apostrophe S to citizens with no apostrophe, which is probably fine. One of the reasons you said you're changing the name is so that you can identify the old CABs from the new CABs. And I mean, I hate to say that, but that's really the county's problem, to update their ordinances so that they read properly and not try some Mickey Mouse stunt of changing the name. So that you can say, well, we no longer have to notify the cabs of a planning commission meeting 10 days in advance in writing. And we just went through that whole process. Do your work. Make all the changes necessary. Make it correct. Don't Mickey Mouse this thing around. This name change thing, like I say, it's virtually unanimous. I don't know why it keeps coming up. The citizens don't want it, period. Let's see. The other thing too, along that same line about changing the name, it's interesting because you're sort of dealing with Washoe County. We were out looking around with some mercury mitigation issues for Sierra Reflections, and we got into EPA documents and county involvement in mercury mitigation, and they specifically say the citizens advisory boards should be involved in those mitigations. So it isn't just in the county, this goes out to other agencies too. So it's kind of like bigger than what you're picturing it to be. Development issues of concern. Every meeting I sat in on, people wanted to give opinions about development. Every single session I sat in on. But you know something? When the county commissioners had their staff meeting, their strategic planning session, and the county manager got up, he never once mentioned it. The thing that was absolutely unanimous among the people was never brought forward by the county manager. You know, I guess I would advise anybody out there, if you haven't found this thing, go onto the CAB website and go down. It had a schedule and it showed this meeting, which is about the only place in the world you could find it. And then down below that, there's one line that says, click on this document. Take a good look at it. They've crossed off all kinds of stuff. What they're proposing in this is worse than what we have now. We're looking for something better.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Van Ness, and I'm never prepared, but I just think Mr. Naylor's was wonderful. That's exactly what we want. Changing from citizen, we're on a group that are in many different states, and this came up, and there are some other counties that are doing this same thing. I wonder if everybody got together in our county and had a workshop with some other people. Seemed to come after Davos meeting, and they must have sent out some workshops to happen. But I listened to Jean Herman's on the meeting, and she's talking about developers, and we need the developers with us so we can ask questions. The other thing is, the best thing, when I sit there, I love our sheriffs, and they come out and they talk to us, and we want that the same. We don't want any, I don't know why we're changing this. I don't understand. You have to think about how Washoe County is probably way different in the rural parts than a lot of counties. We go way back, and I'm very worried that some of our officials are going to try to change the rural people, and you're doing something on the side. I just don't trust it. I think that they said it costs $43,000. Well, I'll repeat my commissioner, out of $1 billion, is it money that they're trying to stop? $43,000 a year for the caps. That's not really a big chunk of change out of $1 billion budget. The other thing I want to say is there's a leadership academy. We can't get the receipts on that, but that costs our county a lot of money. And those people who are chosen by the county commissioners. There is so much bias. You have to fill out a form and you have to pass a certain psychological tool to get accepted there. And they're all worried about talking politics, but there's no nonpartisans or Republicans on it. That's all I can tell you. They're chosen to be a certain political stripe. So if we can spend all that money for Leadership Academy and the commissioners choose them, then I think we can have our cabs and the commissioners not choose them. I think that people ought to be choosing their cab members. But I'm concerned. I don't know why they're changing this. I'm very concerned after talking to people in other states and other counties. I don't trust this. I don't trust this at all. Thank you.
Okay, I'm here to give some voice to the rural cab. Gerlach is, Maeve Ambrose. I'm a former cab member and a former cab co-chair and a former chair. So I've been with the cab for quite some time. I've lived in my community since 1981. And we have a very different community than Spanish Springs. Bruce, I love everything that you're having to say because you're always such a strong advocate for the citizens in your area. And everyone here from the various areas had very positive points. And I think the issue that we're seeing has to do with, you keep saying, why are the changes happening? Is the budget shortfalls, City of Sparks, City of Reno, Washoe County. And so where are they looking to make cuts? Why the cabs? I don't know, because we, like you're saying, we cost less money than many of the other departments and programs that the county has looked to have instead. So it is important to have a voice on development. I will say last night we had a neighborhood meeting. We had almost 50 people show up on that neighborhood meeting. And it would have been the same had we still have been able to have our cab meetings. Those same people would have come to the cab just the same as they went to the neighborhood meeting because they know the importance of being there, sharing their feelings, not their emotion, but giving facts. And it was an amazing meeting, Jeannie. I wish I would like to say that it is good that we have at least a substitute, the neighborhood meeting, but it's not anything like it used to be in the old days, as all of our old timers remember. And I think that's been the biggest gripe of all the cabs, is why did we get that power taken away from us? Or courtesy is not really a power, it's just a common courtesy. We are the people in our area that are the eyes and the ears for the entire community. All of those people, we're always watching to see what's going on in social media. What are they talking about? What are the problems that are going on? Well, what can we do to mitigate that? We know the departments, we know the people to contact. We're the logical people to be that conduit of information between the constituents and the county. And unfortunately, we've been upended because of the remake into this new, they're trying to morph us into some entirely different program than what that we had, and we're not effective. And so people aren't coming anymore. Why go? Because they've said, well, what's the difference? They're gonna do it anyway. That's what I hear all the time. Why go? What's the difference, right? And so we can make a difference. I know that we can make a difference because we have made a difference. Bruce has made difference. All these other people that are here tonight have made a difference in their areas. And that's what we need to continue to do. It's not, we need to revise. Yes, I agree. There are things that need to be updated and reworded on the codes. And I think you've done a good job of that, except some of the things I think a lot of people would be turning in their cards and saying, you know, maybe do it this way and not that way. But I think you've done an excellent job on, you know, trying to revise. I mean, we can't go, I mean, obviously we have to go move forward. You know, we're moving forward in all areas. And so we do have to make revisions. And I'm one that remembers the old handbooks that had all our bylaws in them. And we used to get a handbook when we got accepted to the CAB. Everybody got their handbook and it had all the bylaws out, you know, written out for us. And the last 5 years, I guess, they kind of went away. And I even asked Candy here, what happened to the bylaw handbooks? Well, you know, they just went away. Okay, so well, the push is the online, but there's a lot of seniors that aren't very online savvy, and it's still important to be, I mean, I'm one, I will say that.
Yes.
Okay, see, that's the thing, and too much emphasis is being put on online only. We're the ombudsman for your communities, and the CAB. And so, I mean, they should feel like they can come to the CAB and tell us, you know, this is what I'm really worried about. I don't know how to get on the computer. Can you do this for me? Or else we have a newsletter that we can put out with that information to people. And then your neighbor can bring it over and say, hey, this is, you know, something that's happening out here. Maybe you want to go to this meeting. So we've got to watch out for everybody, you know, in our communities, especially our rural communities, because we are not in an area that has like, you know, 1,000 new people. And the day shift, swing shift, night shift, things going on now with the warehouse jobs, you know, it's impossible for people to sometimes come out to the meeting. But if they know, I can go talk to Bruce, I can go talk to Larry, and he's going to be my voice at the next meeting, you know, or he'll be the one who contacts the county. And that's what's important. I want you guys to remember that even though, you know, our cabs are changing, hopefully they're not going to go away. That's not what they're saying in this paperwork. And that's why we're here to have a voice. But feel free to go to any of your CAB members, right, Bruce? And, you know, with whatever your concern is, and say, how can you help me? And they're going to tell you, because that's what we are. You know, we're here to help the best we can. And we appreciate, I think the commissioners need not to be spread so thin that they have 5 different areas. I know, I think that's been a real challenge for Commissioner Herman, and all that driving. But, you know, if she's okay with that, then, you know, that's fine. But it might make it a little more simplified. But I do understand Sun Valley. I think that's really important to keep your 2. Absolutely. So that's my spiel. Thank you.
My name is Pam Roberts. I'm on the Warm Springs Rural Cab. I've been on it for a few years. I've really struggled with what we are able and unable to do. A comment made earlier about the only thing we get to vote on is our minutes is really a true story. Way to go, Mark. We have a lot of wonderful qualified people serving on these cabs that are donating their time and their energy to help their community. And we are very limited in terms of what we can do. It's my impression that the agendas is planned by county staff, not by the members of the cab. There's some input, but it doesn't happen. I'm looking at the provision that says update per section dealing with issues of concern in the designated geographical areas that are within Washoe County's governmental jurisdiction. And I think that's in there because we don't want to talk about stuff that the Board of County Commissioners has no power over. For example, they can't affect inflation, okay? So if somebody wants to complain about inflation, that's a bitch session that the county commission can't necessarily deal with. But development is. And so I'm looking at this and I'm saying concern that are within county's governmental jurisdiction, where it's up to the Board of County Commissioners to decide whether this development, this subdivision is going to go in. And so as far as I'm concerned, this has given me and given our CAB the authority to go ahead and have that on our agenda and discuss it. Now, it doesn't mean the county commission has to listen to us. Remember, it's an advisory board, and sometimes they don't listen to us, maybe even more times than not, they don't. We've actually been able to accomplish a couple things in our county or our citizen CAB out there. One of the things that the county actually helped us do is it came up in one of our meetings about the dead zone between Axe Handle Road and Winnemucca Ranch Road. And dead zone is cell service for those of you who don't. And it's an area where we had a lot of accidents. There was a fire. And it just so happened that one of the county staff members was out there dealing with the broadband, the expansion of broadband. And it took a while, but we actually have a new cell tower out in our valley. It's a Verizon cell tower. So you'll have to switch to Verizon if you want to be able to have service. The other thing they did that I thought was really helpful was we had a lot, we're very close to Moon Rocks, if anybody's familiar with Moon Rocks. And during the holiday weekends, it is unbelievable the amount of people, trailers, UTVs and stuff that go to Moon Rocks. And we had, a presentation by the sheriff and fire. And, it's on BLM land, right? It's on federal land. And they were telling us about their role. Well, the CAB complained and said, hey, wait a minute. You're the law enforcement all the way out there and back there. Can't you guys get together and have like a little cooperation, collaboration, so that you can make sure that it's safer out there, that the fireworks aren't as bad? And you know what? A couple days later, we found out they must have done that and I think it's because of what our CAB said to them, that you need to be more proactive. CABs have a purpose, they have meaning as long as we have communication and collaboration. For example, did everybody in this room get an actual notice of this meeting? Okay, somebody else sent it to you, right? That's how you found out about it. There's a lot of things that are going on, and I worry about the bylaws too. I've helped a lot on bylaws in different organizations, and I think it's really critical that each CAB be able to have their own bylaws. I mean, there can be some basic things that the county commission wants to say you have to do, but I think there has to be some flexibility so that each CAB can have their own bylaws, and we need to keep track of them. And when the county is going to do something in our area, they need to let the CABs know. For example, Maeve talked about the neighborhood meeting we had last night. There were over 50 people there for this neighborhood meeting because there's somebody who wants to put a subdivision in the middle of our valley. And of course, there's a lot of good actual factual reasons why that's not a good idea. I'm not going to go into them at all. But one of the things that developer did is they got a variance from the Department of Health, so that instead of having a septic tank on every 5 acres, which is what the state recommends, by the way, they got it so that they could have it on 2.5 acres. So there's a meeting with the Department of Health that happened that nobody in our CAB knew about in advance. Certainly nobody in the area knew about in advance. And that's something that affects us in that community. So there needs to be better communication coming from Candy, your department, or from the county that lets the cab know about things that are affecting our area, whether it's development or something like that. We found out about it after the fact. So I think there's some really good changes in there. In reading them, I'm like, okay, yeah, you need to change that. You need to change that. But there's also some things that are still too vague. And I'm going to stop there, but thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for the work you've done on that. And I do think, some of our people like Candy have been very helpful, but I still feel like the county commission is, we're still being told what to do. And I think we need to be telling them what to do.
Scott Johnston, I'm in Mike Clark's district. I've been trying to get on the cab for, 3 years. So last year I got a call from Mike and he said, yeah, we're considering you for a cab interview next week. I'm in Alaska. I said, I can't get down there in a week. So I don't know where the provisions are for notice for applicants on the cab, if that's in there anywhere, but there should be at least a 30-day notice to applicants so that we can at least be available to be interviewed and get on a cab. Also, the bylaws, I think that's something that's really important that we have within the cab, and we can structure that. Thanks.
We have Elizabeth Gambrell online. So you're unmuted.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, super. Elizabeth Shotzi Gambrell from the Gerlach Cab, of which I've been a member for 10 years between alternate and vice chair. And I've thoroughly enjoyed the process, but I have also watched it change a lot. As a cab member, I believe I represent locally because I see my community regularly. I hear what they're talking about. I hear what they're worried about. I hear what they're hopeful for. I understand the county commissioners represent all of Washoe, which makes sense. That's their job. But each individual commissioner is responsible for listening to their district. And I believe Jeannie Harriman does a great job of that. But there are 5 commissioners. And I understand that. And I understand they want the best for their community. But I believe as a whole, they should be representing what is good for all of Washoe. Just like I think the state legislature should look at what's good for all of Nevada, or federal, what's good for America. And when I hear you taking the S off of our name, to me, it says you're reducing us to singulars. So as a Citizens Advisory Board member, I believe that we are closer out here to the people who live in our communities, just as if every other cab member from the other districts are. It is a 4-hour round trip for any of my community members to get to Reno to work with any of these items. And as you all know, everybody's got jobs and family and things going on. So I believe the name is actually indicative of what we do. We are a representative of the citizens of our community. I don't believe in a name change. I think we should stay plural because we are not singular. And we're not just 5 people from my current 2,200 square miles of area that we cover. I'm not just Gerlach. I'm representing Empire. I'm representing Duck Flats. We go all the way to the California border. So to expect people from my community to drive in and try and stay on top of these, that's what we're here for, so they can talk to us at the post office, just like I imagine most of the other cab members from the areas do. You see them at the store. You see them out on the streets. You see them when you go have coffee. So I believe the name should stay Citizens Advisory Board. And I hear the word advisory because we collect the data, we give it to the county commissioners. Then they make some decisions based within the laws. I understand that. This jurisdiction thing, to a bit has me a bit confused. When you say require the geographical boundaries of the cab to fall within a single commissioner's district, and then go on to about within Washoe County's governmental jurisdiction. I've learned more about American politics. I'm retired Navy, lived overseas most of my life. Being a part of the cab and also GGID, that I don't expect everybody to know. So I think that's some of the information you could provide to us that we could provide to our neighborhood. If we ask you something that's not within Washoe County's governmental jurisdiction, let us know so we can go back and tell our community members, hey, sorry, Washoe County commissioners can't really handle that. That has to go to the state legislature. These are where your avenues are, rather than every single community member having to look up everything for themselves. I think that would be helpful. The geographical boundaries, you guys, most of the other cabs have a neighbor to the right or the left. We have a small neighbor over on California border going down, but mostly we're out here in the middle of nowhere all by ourselves. So I have no comment on that part. The update provisions related to board membership, I know Jeannie Herman represents us absolutely well, but somewhere in that deep, dark depths of 9th Avenue down there, we have had several cab memberships submitted with absolutely no communication. I know this would be a burden on Candy, but I'd like to see kind of a database that has a name on this person applied for Gerlach Cab. So I can tell them, yes, your application has been received. You are on the list to be considered. I have currently one that was submitted 4 months ago that hasn't gotten a word back. I feel for the man who spoke earlier. The bylaws. I missed the big book that I came in here with that had planning. People came and talked to out here because it's a long way out here. So to have actual developers, people who want to make changes to their lands, put in a solar system, take up acreage to do this, get water from there, it was handy for their neighbors. The neighborhood meetings are lovely, but they're not on record. And that bothers me. I like our meetings being on record because we can fall back to it and say, this person said that and did not get a response. This person said that and there was no movement. Where are we at? So I do believe we should have planning back. It gives, we're the second Thursday of every month, right? We've got that set up. And everybody knows it. But they get this little yellow card in the mail that says, we're going to have a meeting July 20th at 6 p.m. No, that's too many meetings in a row for our farmers and ranchers and workers to give up. If they know it's the second Thursday and anything that's happening in their area, they know where to go. I do believe we should have that back. It's difficult not to have that. Because you're right, we feel as if we're fluffing. We're just doing the bare minimum. Because when I read this document, what I really got from it was that, wow, they're finding more ways to fire singular people or maybe just dissolve us again. Because this would be the third time since I've been here in the last decade, which really does disturb me. I am not opposed to having new bylaws written, but I agree with one of the women earlier said, or gentleman, I can't remember, that we're all unique. Gerlach is definitely a little different than Sun Valley and or Spanish Springs. So a very simplistic view of a single bylaw to cover the difference in the various 6,542 miles of Washoe County seems a little juvenile to me. We are all different. We have some people with industry. We have some people with multiple developments. We have some people like me who live in a town of 100, but we represent 2,200 square miles. I think that really needs to be looked into. And out here, we've always voted on who our CAP officers are because I believe a community knows who their people are. And the people who are sitting at the table know who's competent and not. I appreciate my commissioner's input, but the final vote should be at the people who are sitting at the table and or the people in the audience of that neighborhood. The one recommendation I do have is in section 3, subparagraph 3. Oh, sorry, my bad. Let's go here. Nope, I am correct. Section 3, subparagraph 3. Just saying, I think that last sentence should say each advisory board shall have at least a chair and a vice chair. Let's just bring it up to 2025. And I am wondering in paragraph 4 of subsection 3, there doesn't seem to be any time limits. And that's a concern for me out here because we are such a small aging population. It's hard for us to get anybody to serve at all. So my understanding was there was like a 12-year limit, but most of my community has already served their 12 years, sometimes in the last 40. So I need to find out whether or not that's true because we're going to run out of people. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having this meeting. I look forward to more discussion.
Thank you. And next we have Roxana Dunn.
Hello, this is Roxana Dunn, and thank you for allowing us to do this via Zoom. I am on the Incline Village Crystal Bay Citizens Advisory Board. Here are a few of my inputs. First, regarding the name change, I don't see any purpose to this other than just calling out the fact that the Citizen Advisory Board does not have the power that it used to have. And that's a shame, but I don't think it warrants a name change. We have some identity and recognition with the current name, so I would just leave it. Constituent, I'm really opposed to. I think it would bring back my stutter if I had to say I was on the Constituent Advisory Board on a regular basis, and it's also even harder to explain to people. As far as the notion that we would allow people to serve on multiple boards, I would be opposed to this for the most part. We have seen situations where one person serving on many boards means that it's very difficult to move anything in a direction other than that one person wants. And so having multiple people, multiple ideas represented, I think is a positive thing. I know that one of the drivers for reconsidering the cabs was the notion of switching to neighborhood meetings. I have attended several neighborhood meetings, and my impression is this: they are conducted by the developers, who then have the ability to interpret the input that they receive however they want to interpret it. There are no minutes. I do understand there are tapes, although I've never known where they are. But there are no minutes. There's no particular record. And most importantly, there is no continuity. I think this is one of the real benefits of the Citizens Advisory Boards, is that you have people who have sat in on multiple meetings, hearing a bunch of different issues, who have some history as to how we got where we are today. And so neighborhood meetings can be popular because they are focused on a single topic, whereas when you come to a CAB meeting, you have to sit through several, all of the general comments and board announcements and that sort of thing. So people do like the neighborhood meetings, but in terms of really representing the community, I don't think they are nearly as effective as the CAB. I've been assured that this change from one commissioner, this change to one commissioner per CAB will not evolve to be one CAB per commissioner. I do empathize with the hardworking commissioners that they have to attend multiple meetings. But I think we have a number of situations where a cab represents a community that is either geographically broad or geographically separate, as we are. Also, in our case, we have to deal a lot with the agencies around the lake, and so that has a real different tone than Washoe County specific things. The imposition of open meeting law, and I'm very much a supporter of the notion of open meeting laws, because I know that we want to make things transparent. But my understanding is that that is to make transparent any discussions behind decisions that you vote on, and has been mentioned a couple of times. The only things we really vote on are minutes and adjournments. And so the open meeting law in some cases constrains the nature of discussion, and I would like to see some consideration for opening that up a little bit. I think that's pretty much all I want to say. As far as the CAB meetings being complaint sessions, there is a lot of that. I think a lot of people come to the meetings to see what the county is doing to us. I would love to see it change to not only what the county is doing for us, but even better, what the county is doing with us. And to achieve that, one of the things I would love to see is that after we give input on topics, there is a real effort to come back and give us updates as to how much of our input was actually acted upon. I don't see a lot of that happening today. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and hope all the best for these changes. What happened?
Okay, next we have RC, and then it'll be followed by Kathy Julian.
Hi, Reba Crump for the record, and
I did the wrong person. Go ahead and unmute yourself, RC.
I have been, but it isn't taking.
We can hear you now.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Hi, Reba Crump for the record, and I'm in the out in Spanish Springs cab board, and I've seen this board evolve over the last 10 years, and some of the evolution has been good and some questionable. One of the problems we were having in the Spanish Springs cab board meetings is that citizens were requesting of the cab board members to please address these concepts so they could be informed of important information like the sewage treatment plant and how far are we on capacity and things like that. And at one point, those items were being addressed and they were agendized, and we were having huge attendance because it's the information that people really wanted, and their voices were being heard by the board, and the board was requesting it, and it was being put on the agendas. So it was high interest because that's what the knowledge they really wanted to have. And then it changed somehow, and no matter how frequently the CAB board members would request items be agendized, they were never, ever agendized. In fact, anything they requested, all the requests disappeared and were ignored. I don't know if it was the commissioner, I don't know if it was the staff, it doesn't really seem to matter, but if it's a citizens advisory board meeting, the function is really for the citizens, and supposed to be able to have some input or gain some knowledge that that whole base in that area really wants to have. And so when those requests are ignored, you're damaging the cab boards and it's damaging the reputation of the people in Washoe County and those elected into the county for these positions. Let's see, when you have the cab board members appointed on the board and the commissioners are doing the appointing, you have the potential to create a commissioners board. And that does not necessarily represent the people in that area because it can be biased by who the commissioners choose. And if the commissions are choosing and it's their board and possibly their agenda of the cab that's going to be heard, the things that'll be heard that night, then this really isn't a citizen advisory board anymore. It's a commissioners advisory board of some sort. And when they stopped agendizing what the people wanted, out here Spanish Springs, the cab board kind of dissolved. I mean, there's just hardly any, there's no reason to go anymore. The things you really want to know about are never on the agenda. So why bother? I fully support what Elizabeth Gambrell had said about when I read the what was going to be the changes. My really initial instinct was, oh my God, they're dissolving the cab boards. So there's something in there that gives that impression, because I wasn't the only one who actually thought that. And Elizabeth backed that up because I don't know her and she thought it too. So there's something very poorly worded, if that is not the intent, to just dissolve and diminish the cab boards, because that's the impression many people got. And thank you for listening to me. That's all I had.
Kathy Julian.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you for this opportunity, the remote Zoom opportunity to speak. I'm in Incline Village, and I had been a member of the CAB, but a couple of years ago, I guess I was appointed to the Board of Adjustment. So I have a bit of perspective on this. And I do appreciate all the various points that Roxana Dunn made, who is the chair of our CAB here. As for the name, the only value I see in any name change is that I do look at the CAB as representing the interests of, in the context of Incline Village, our Latino immigrant community who are very valuable to this community and to the tourism base here and to the service industry here and as part of our workforce. But I think we can attend to their needs as well without changing the name Citizens Advisory Board, as long as people are recognizing that the CABs represent the entire community, not just voting members or citizens in a community. Secondly, I tend to agree with the concept of not having members of the CAB on other planning commission and board of adjustment. I didn't mind being taken off the CAB when I assumed the position on the board of adjustment. I think, in my view, I think the CABs should have more of a role in looking at development projects, major development projects in their community. I think that would be in addition to the neighborhood meeting. The neighborhood meetings, I understand fully the concept of doing that front-end loaded, so you get some of the suggestions from the community at the very start. But the bottom line is, when those notes from those neighborhood meetings come to the Board of Adjustment in the staff report, frankly, there's some tape online that it's cumbersome to listen to. There's no easy way there's no minutes, so you have no easy way to really scan and see what everyone said. Sometimes it's up to the developer how good of notes they take and what kind of information they provide to the county staff, who then put it into the staff report. So it can be spotty what you get from these neighborhood meetings. And on more than one occasion, we've had minimal stuff in the staff report, yet there are people in the audience who were at those neighborhood meetings and do not feel that the proposal before the Board of Adjustment was properly developed. So that says there is some divergence between the feedback in the neighborhood meetings and the development that ends up in front of a Board of Adjustment or planning or whatever. So I think having the CAB involved in terms of having a presentation by the developers down the road about the project and having the CAB make comments on this, and then having those CAB comments included in the Washoe County staff report that goes to the Board of Adjustment or the Planning Commission, that would be an excellent idea. And with that in mind, I do not think it is a good idea for there to be a CAB member on the Board of Adjustment or the Planning Commission. And let's see if there's anything else here. I also echo, I think having flexibility so that a particular CAB can tweak their bylaws for it to be more conducive to their particular situation, especially in a place like Incline Village that is very different than other parts of Washoe County. I think that's a good idea too. And that's all I have to say. And I do appreciate this meeting. I have learned a lot from listening to a number of people in other parts of Washoe County. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all we had for hands raised.
Yeah, public input, yeah, on the topic of gas.
That's the ordinance change, right?
I can't see that. I can't see when I'm sitting up there, I can't see them. No, I think it really should have Mark Newman for the record. And everybody in here and even our speakers have said some wonderful things. And I hope the county commissioners take this to heart, that the people really appreciate the Citizens Advisory Board. We need to bring back to where we are actually an advisory board to the commissioners. Because when you go talk about these community members meetings, Chocolate Drive Apartments, we had what? Full room, 150 plus people at the room. When the developer stood up here and said, oh, at the community meeting that we had, one person was for it and the other person was here, and that was the worst of it. And Kitty Junk goes, oh, well, then in that case, it'll be great for the community. Citizens advisory boards would have advised the commissioners differently at that point in time. So that 700 feet notification, I think, is pretty off the wall. Thank you.
Russell Byerly for the record, Gerlach Empire Cab. Sorry to make you all wait an extra couple of minutes, but I did want to weigh in on just on the matter of clarifying advice to commissioners on matters within Washoe County's governmental jurisdiction. And the reason I think this is worth discussing is that often what we're asking for is not jurisprudence. We're often asking for diplomacy. Out in Gerlach is the geographical center of Washoe County. Half of Washoe County is past Gerlach, and a lot of that is, federal government land. So, when something comes up, often it's not the clear responsibility of any particular government agency to resolve that issue. And finding out exactly who you should be talking to is a civics lesson in apathy. So it would be nice, if it remained the purview of the cabs for us to ask our commissioners, what we should be doing, who we should be talking to. Could you please put us in touch with somebody? We don't know whose problem this is, and we're at a dead end. And that's something that we've had to do before, and Washoe County's been helpful. But adding this language to the purpose of the cabs, it removes that function. And I think it's an important function that we've used before. And sometimes they've fought for us and sometimes we've won. And we'd like that to happen again. Thank you.
So the language in the
Well, yeah. Hi, my name is Donnie Olson. I'm in Spanish Springs. I do not want the name changed. I feel that constituent is very cold. It's impersonal. I resent that term. I'm kind of offended by it. Nothing really offends me ever. So it really bothers me that you would even go there. It's not necessary. I don't want the cabs to be dissolved. The cab meeting coming up in Spanish Springs on May 7th, 6 o'clock at the library has to do with the proposed toll road that, if you're not aware, is being planned. So it would be a good opportunity for anybody who lives there or does not, because it's going to affect our whole area and the surrounding communities. So just an FYI. So no, I want the cabs to remain. Thank you.
So I will tell you, we are trying to wrap things up. I will make that clear. And there are lots of opportunities for written input as well. So if it pertains to this, we can take some brief comments.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Veronica Cortez, Sun Valley Citizens Advisory Board. I guess I'm the newest member, possibly the youngest member. Anyway, I just want to let you guys know that we have a whole new generation of cabs coming up, and we agree with all of the people who have been, putting their input. I'm all over social media. I absolutely love Sun Valley. I sponsor a lot of teams out there. I'm always giving work to the homeless and stuff. And the Citizens Advisory Board is super important. And I think it's perfect the way it is. And according to social media, we don't want it changed. So thank you for all the hard work, but no thanks. Have a great night.
Hi, Brad Stanley, and serve on the District 2 Citizens Advisory Board with S's and apostrophes and everything. And also served a couple of tours on the BOA. So very interested and have had a dog in this particular fight for quite some time. I wanted to listen to everybody. I have a kind of a backwards question. And it is, I keep wondering, and this is for the DA's office, I think, since the cabs were set up through the state legislature, through NRS sections, blah, 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 what did we break that brought us in non-compliance with the law under which we're operating? Why are we spending this money? Why are we spending this time? If you listen to what everybody says, they say, I like it as it is, don't eliminate it, leave us alone. The second thing is, gee, I wish it was as good as it used to be. One of the used to be items was developers coming in and speaking to the cabs about how they could work with citizens to make everything better, to make everybody happy, and that we need homes to live in. So if we could do it in a civilized way, it'd be great. I don't recall, having done my first 2 tours as a cab guy, I don't recall getting a notice from the DA saying, we're not going to have developers in the meeting at all. What I do recall is a kind of a nudge in the side from one of the previous commissioners saying, hey, Brad, we're not going to do this anymore. So keep it down. So I'm wondering, just to be kind of, I don't want to say nasty about it, but given our budget shortfall, What do you reckon the loaded labor rate is for whether there's an S on us, on citizens, or no S, or an apostrophe? How many cab meetings would that pay for, would you guess? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, both in person and online, for being here tonight. I do want to go to the next slide, Casey. Just to share next steps. And just so you guys know, I know there was some concern that the cab ordinance language changes were not available. They are in the back of the room if anyone wants to grab one. So those are readily available. And they're also available online on the cab homepage, as are the bylaws. I know that came up today as well. So the bylaws and training, all of that is online. And if anyone ever needs a printed copy, just ask. We're very happy to bring that. And I didn't know that was a concern. So what happens next is we are going to summarize the input and post to the cab homepage by end of day on May 5th. So you still have a few days. Please provide additional input pertaining to the cab ordinance changes through the 2nd. And we can summarize that and everyone can see it on the homepage on the 5th. And then staff will review the input for possible inclusion into the revised draft ordinance put together by the district attorney's office. And then on May 13th, we are going to have the first reading of the revised proposed ordinance scheduling. So please plan on being at the Board of County Commissioners on that day if you'd like to provide additional input on that first reading. And then the second reading will take place in June, tentatively. And then both of these are additional opportunities to provide input. And then we're looking at updating the proposed bylaws, tentatively scheduled for June. And then after that, any possible amendments to resolutions for each cab would take place. So that's what's on the horizon. Yeah. Okay, yes, we will update that. Thank you. We'll make sure. And again, please, just one last reminder to please sign in if you haven't already, because we are going to be including that with the staff report. So if you have any questions, anything you want to talk about, please email cab@washoecounty.gov. You know each of your cab representatives. Please contact us personally if you'd like. And then again, there's some written comment cards in the back. So we'll invite Jen back up. Do you have anything else to say? Okay, well, again, thank you everyone tonight. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. We really appreciate everyone. So thank you so much, and everyone online too.